I'm glad to hear it, man. Thanks for answering when I reached out to you, because I've been wanting to do this for a while. And what I really wanted to do is just talk to you about everything, like how you got to the point you are successfully, you know what I mean? And just talk about your story, because I think it's very interesting, because I feel like a lot of people go through things in life and they feel like no one else has done it. And I feel like when they hear someone who's gone through a path that they want to go through, they can be like, oh, okay, I didn't even know that that was an option for me. I didn't even think that that was something I could do because of whatever reason. So I always like to tell those stories, and that's what I wanted to do with this. And
Love it.
for me, my first question started back, where are you born?
Where am I born?
Where were you born? Yeah.
Oh, so I was born in Lewistown, Pennsylvania.
PA. So talk to me about being born in PA and your family dynamic that you're born into.
So I mean, Pennsylvania is a great state. I mean, I enjoyed growing up there. We're from a pretty small town, so the name of the town that I lived in predominantly from the ages of 0 to 5 was called Mount Union, Pennsylvania. And so I'm born into a biracial marriage. My dad is white, my mom is black. We're from a pretty small town, so I can't imagine that their relationship was really a very smooth or easy journey, especially in the time. I was born in 1985, man. So, it's just kind of really getting to the point where interracial relationships were accepted, especially in a small town area like that. So, that's the way I was born. I was surrounded by grandparents. Well, I should say my grandmothers. I actually never knew either of my grandfathers. So both of my parents grew up without a dad, essentially. My dad never knew his father. So that he was just never a part of his life. He bailed very early in my Nana's pregnancy. And then my mother's father was killed in Vietnam. So she didn't really know him very well either. I mean, this is when she was only months old. And then my grandmother did get remarried. So she had, some men in her life after that, which she's still pretty close with today. But yeah, that was it, man. We kind of had a good family thing going. My parents did divorce when I was 3 years old. So the fortunate thing about that is that they were very unique in their ability to sustain a great relationship with each other, meaning that, the communication was always there. I mean, I'm sure they struggled and didn't see eye to eye on everything, right? Of course, life is life. But they did an awesome job really co-parenting me. Both, I'm really fortunate for this, both got into pretty serious relationships shortly after their divorce. So it was only a matter of 18 months or 2 years. And really, I've just found myself growing up with two families. So, that's pretty much the origin story, at least when it comes to the Pennsylvania side of things.
That's awesome, man. And then, so let's fast forward a little bit into, you moved to Arizona because you talk about both your parents having your mom's house, your dad's house. So let's say your dad's is Pennsylvania, your mom's is Arizona now, right? So we're fast forward to that. So talk to me about the different dynamics of growing up, 1 year going to school in Pennsylvania, 1 year going into Arizona.
Yeah, dude, that was a very unique situation. So everyone understands the circumstance was basically they got split custody of me. My mom agreed to share as much time, for me as a young man with my dad's family and vice versa. And so I would spend, the unique portion is that, of course, my stepfather was in the military. So he was retired Air Force. At the time, he was still active duty. So they were getting moved and transferred around from base to base. And, essentially what I would do is, my home base was kind of PA. And then I would just be going state to state from the other location. So I lived in Ohio, I lived in Arizona, I lived in California, and then all the while always going back to Pennsylvania. And then, one of the most, I would say, life lessons, I guess, common themes that I picked up on there was I started to learn about human dynamics, and differently from my peers because I saw so many different ones. I got a chance to really see, the cool kids at one school and how they treated the kids that weren't so cool, right? And then I'd see a same but different dynamic in Pennsylvania, or then I'd get to a new school and I wouldn't know anyone. So I had to learn how to make friends, what it was like to keep friends, who did I want to be my friend. This unique experience that I had growing up really helped me author kind of almost who I wanted to be, because I didn't have to fit a mold. I know that a lot of my peers were forced into a mold, because it's kind of like you grow up in a school your whole life and kind of have the same friends your whole life, and you're just kind of like a particular kind of person.
Yep.
And I'm fortunate that I didn't really have to do that. Now, of course, it brought us challenges. I miss my friends all the time. I get close with some of my boys, or you get to the age where you start to have girlfriends or whatever it might be. And like leaving those people for a year, I was like, man, it kind of like started to break my heart, probably especially around the age of like 12 or 13. So yeah, man, it was a challenge, but I'm very fortunate now as an adult when I look back on my upbringing, because it helps me see through a lot of the mystique that people try to put in front of you, right? Like, there's a lot of BSers out there in the world. There's a lot of people that try to wear a facade. And I think having to see the real side of people growing up helps me kind of recognize that early, which is helpful.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, man. That's super dope, because like you, my dad was in the Air Force, so I grew up in a very similar situation and got to move around, and you experience, like you say, kids that are cool in one situation versus another situation, and you learn to see how other people treat other people and how other people react to it, and then how to project it because you've seen it in other different ways. So you know how to use that for yourself when you're talking to people. Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go to this situation. I've seen people like this. I know I can't say this type of thing, or maybe, you know what I mean? Because I know it. I know they're surrounding me because I've seen it. And that's a very interesting dynamic thing that you've experienced, because a lot of people don't experience, and that's so awesome.
No, yeah, 100%, man. That's right.
That's cool. And then the other thing I wanted to talk to you about now, so you get to Arizona, and that's where I meet you. And that's one of the cool things I love about this podcast is friends from school. So we actually went to school together. I met Adrian when I was 9th grade, and you were in the 11th grade. So let's talk about that interaction. First time you met me, what was your first action, like interaction with me? And what was your first thought process when you first met me?
Man, that's a great question. I couldn't even tell you what the first interaction we had was. I don't remember like the very first thing, but I remember you as a young athlete, a young man. I was like, okay, who's this new cat coming up in here? Athletic, like hungry to want to learn. One thing that I remember about you specifically, Brendon, was that like, you were very eager to, like, I mean, you had goals. You wanted to be something. You wanted to hit that D1 route. You wanted to be the best football player or basketball player or whatever it was that we were balling in at the time.
Yeah.
You kind of you had that hunger. And I remember that distinctly because, I think I had those same desires. And so when I would meet other young people, and I consider it's like you, Danny Crow, like there were a few cats within your class that like stood out to me, because I mean, you guys were just always around. It was like if I was going to the weight room, it was like y'all were like, hey, well, I guess we should go work out or something. You know what I mean? Like it was it was really the desire to like level up is what stood out most to me about you. And then of course we started to kick it and do other things together too. So that was always good.
Yeah, the extra part of it. Yeah. So like for me, my first interaction was obviously through sports and through school, and then you're like the big man on campus. Like I lived in the same neighborhood as Danny Crow and Eddie Brown and Ronnie Tate in that whole Desert Mirage neighborhood. And so I didn't know anyone when I went to Westview and I started playing football, which is the whole reason I played football. I never played in my life before. And then that's when I saw you and all those guys, and that's how our interaction became. And that was my freshman year. And then we fast forward to like my sophomore year, we get Coach Bowen. Now I want to talk about Coach Bowen because huge influence on my life through football. Talk to me about like your experience and what that experience was for you to get Coach Jeff Bowen in your life for football, going in from another great coach in Coach Martinez. A lot of people don't even know in Arizona who was great in his own right.
Yeah. So just to hit on that before we even transition into Bowen, it's like Martinez was, for me, I played for a lot of coaches, man, growing up. Not just from, I know a lot of people do, but also just because I moved so much. So I'd see different styles, different flavors, different leadership styles, different offensive schemes. I played for coaches. There's a coach in 7th grade that will always stick out in my mind named Mark King, who, man, we just played this gritty, straight up, we line up and smash your face in style of football. And he just made us tough. Like that was it. Like we were 12 and 13 and he just wanted to find the toughest 11. And he played all those 11 as much as he could on both sides of the ball without getting in trouble from parents. Like that was it. And so the point is that I learned a lot of things. Then fast forward as I get to Arizona as a sophomore, I'm the new kid. I did have friends that I went to elementary school with at Villa de Paz. So I had Josh, I had Chris Lore, I had, Philip Perez. I had like a crew of people that I was close with, and I could be
You there?
myself, like just,
Yeah, sorry.
yeah. You still got me?
Yeah, just a little bad connection, but I got you now. We're back.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, I see your screen. Okay, now I got you back. You're
Yeah,
good. Cool. So my point is that being the new guy, I was extremely intimidated. Now I came from Pennsylvania as a ninth grader, and I'll share this too with the audience. Sorry, this is like a meandering around the question to get
No,
there.
it's perfect, man. I love it.
Long term.
Yeah,
Okay.
I get you.
My dad ended up passing away when I was in 10th grade, right? He died in a car accident. It was a pretty tragic thing in my life.
Yeah.
And something that really defines my character and who I am as I continue to mature from that time, 15, 16. But so 10th grade year, first year in Arizona, and some things that he was going through in my life when I was a freshman in Pennsylvania is the reason that I ultimately had to make the choice to live in Arizona. So it wasn't like, oh man, I really wanted to be there. I had come from a place where I was kind of the big dog in a small pond in Pennsylvania as a freshman, playing some varsity sports, basketball and football, and then coming to this new place where there's way more kids, way more athletes.
Yeah.
Anyways, I was intimidated to say the least. And Coach Martinez, he himself had this very much NFL style of coaching, right? And people that don't know, he had a stint with the Arizona Cardinals where I think he got to help with running backs. And it might have been a relatively short-lived experience, but he had a son that would go on to play Division I football. He was a quarterback, very offensive-minded, very good about schemes and new things to me, like zone running schemes and all these things where I was like, oh, okay, I see this on TV. I've never heard about it in person, and certainly not in high school. So I show up as a new guy, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm just going to lay it on the line. And the point is that through playing with Coach Martinez, and being that new guy, I learned how important it was to be able to adapt to schemes, right? So that means whatever Coach Martinez really wanted as a coach, that's who I had to kind of be in order to find playing time, in the big scope of things, especially as young as a 10th grader.
Yeah.
So I evolved to play whatever I was asked to play, right? I wanted to be a running back. I wanted to carry the football, maybe play a little bit of safety or corner. And fortunately enough, I was able to find the field as a 10th grader corner. And then I got moved around and bumped around down the outside linebacker a little bit. And even as wild as it sounds, from corner, I played even some defensive end.
Yeah.
And so, my background of just being able to work hard and really find a place helped me. And then my junior year was more of the same. I played some fullback. I got some carries at tailback, but not very much. I hardly touched the ball. And I got to my introduction to finally play some more linebacker and more of kind of like some outside defensive end type positions. And then, and all the while, what I have in my mind is like, man, I want to go Division I. I want to play football. I need a scholarship. Like that's the only way I'm really going to college, right?
Yeah.
So I'm busting my tail. I'm grinding. We get word that Coach Martinez is going to be transitioning out of the spot. And I'm like, oh, man, great. Like I hear nightmare stories about this, guys that have created a decent resume for themselves, get a new coach, and then it's over, right? Like you don't get recruited or whatever. Lo and behold, in comes Jeff Bowen, the man, the myth, the legend, right? And this guy at the time, and I think you can agree to this, Brendon, it's like he was really ahead of his time in the way that he led, because Coach Bowen is spiritually foundational. He's a great leader. He's very sound in his judgment. So that's awesome that you get those things character-wise. But his mind was like, he wanted to prepare everybody to play at the next level. Like he was basically trying to level us all up. And so it was really cool to watch that, because of course you had guys like me that were like, hey, all right, let's get it like however we can. But then there were even guys that were like, didn't think they could even ever have a chance to play at the next level. And then all of a sudden they were talking about it, like, oh, maybe I could go JUCO, maybe I could go D2, maybe I could go D3.
Yeah.
And so that was amazing to see. So Bowen comes in, and for me personally, it was a tremendous mind shift. Right now, he embodied this combination of those two coaches that I've mentioned previously. He was like Mark King in his tenacity and his ability to make us want to like basically step up and punch somebody in the mouth, to be quite frank.
Yep.
But then he had that Coach Martinez, now a different style of it, but of game planning and strategy.
Yeah.
And what I appreciated most is that, like, man, he's the one that really, aside from, you know, us being obsessed with like Madden and balling on Madden and learning coverages
Exactly,
and stuff.
right? Yeah.
He's the one that taught us how to play cover 3, cover 2, what it looked like to drop into proper coverages, and to be obsessed about that, not just in the fall, but like all spring and summer and winter too.
Yeah.
So he really taught me a lot about the game, and especially how to be a student of it. And you know, for me, it was an opportunity to, you know, this is going to sound arrogant, but I don't know if you remember this or not. There was this instance where I think basically it was like a parent and athlete meeting. He passed out these papers, and it was like he went over his scheme, he went over his style of football, the defense to offense, and like basically had us fill in like what position we felt like we could play or what position we would fit into. You know what I mean? And of course, I wanted to be a ball carrier. I wanted to, you know, I kind of wanted to shine and be the man. I wanted to get that recognition that I felt like I've been preparing for my whole life. And I literally filled out like all 22 positions. And I was like, listen, any one of these that you need me to play, I will play. And I'll be the best person on the team at any one of them. So you let me know, basically, is what I wrote on that paper. And, you know, to many people hearing this that might not know me personally, they're like, oh man, this dude's full of himself. But like, that's really how I prepared. And I was also willing to serve the team that way. So if he felt like, Adrian, you might be a good ball carrier, but right now, man, you need to play guard. Like, I'd have played guard, and I'd have bust some dudes up. You know what I mean? Like, I'd have done what I had to do. So I think Coach Bowen brought all that out of me. So he's, you know, I owe him a lot in my journey.
Oh, that's huge. And like you said, like he brought this for me. I had never seen that in my life in anything. Because like I said, my background in sports is baseball, and in baseball, it's very, very much traditional. And like for me, I'm a person that grasps things very quickly. And then I need to be challenged differently. And in baseball, baseball practice is the same from the time you're 5 years old to you're 18. You do basically the same things, and you learn like a little bit of things in between kind of stuff, right? Whereas football practice was huge and different for me, and Coach Bowen brought that into it. So the demeanor of what it meant to be committed athlete to the team and all that kind of stuff, and what he had us do in our training regimen. It's funny you say he was ahead of his time, because right now I find myself coaching, right? Doing the same things he did or that we did, and people I coach with are like, that's so crazy. That sounds so like, that's so new. Like, and I'm like, nah, man, like this is what we had to do when I was in like high school. Like if we, like I tell people, like we had to work out 3 days a week in the summertime. And if you missed the summertime, you went to the very bottom of the depth chart, which is something that happens in college, right? In most high schools, if you're the dude as a freshman, you can do whatever you want to, and then come back in August and you're going to start. Coach Bowen was not like that. And then you started to see guys, like you say, who were dudes, right? Who started on varsity as a sophomore, right? I don't want to name offensive lineman, right? And then all of a sudden, gone. A kid who never played as a sophomore plays, gets a Division I scholarship, plays in the NFL. Crazy. And it's like that kind of thing, and I think kids miss that now, and especially because I know you like not getting off track, but it's crazy to see that. So talk about that, learning that, and then what the recruiting process of your senior year. So your senior year, I play with you. This is one of my favorite things. My favorite year is my sophomore year, my first year playing varsity, and we had probably an average year. I learned so much from myself in that year of football. Talk to me about your senior year of high school and how that went for you. Hold on, I think you're muted. Is that better? You good? I can't hear you.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay. So lo and behold, you know, I got an opportunity to start, you know, and be the feature back in a system that Bowen had been rolling with for a minute. It was awesome because he got to, you know, let me even add my own twist. You know what I mean? Like the traditional spot in the role was a hand in the ground, fullback type 3-point position. type role, and he let me stand up and be on a 2-point stance and more like a tailback and really carry the ball. And I got to also play inside linebacker, which to me, when I look back, man, I'll tell you what, I really wish that I'd have stuck with the defensive side of the ball. When I went to college, just from the injuries that I experienced being a ball carrier and everything, and the opportunity to like dictate more as a defensive player, right? Like you're a little less reliant upon those other 10. You can still do your thing, make your play, fill your gap, anyways. That's another story. That'd be another podcast. But
exactly.
I'll tell you what, the experience of my senior year was up and down. I had expectations. I wanted to win games, and I wanted to go to the playoffs, and I wanted to make a big push, because what happened was my sophomore year under Coach Martinez, we were 7-3, made it to the first round. My junior year, we had an excellent team, like ridiculous team. Now, if this team that went 9-1, I think we went. We only lost to Red Mountain that year.
That was my freshman
year. This team would have had the offensive grind, the offseason grind and discipline that Bowen could have instilled into that talent. Oh my goodness, I think we would have made a run at state that year, because the talent was tremendous. So many guys in that class even that would have had an opportunity to go further in their career had they had, someone that instilled that kind of discipline and ability to compete, I think. So then going into my senior year, of course, I'm like, okay, cool. My senior year, our class's chance. And I knew while talent-wise we didn't have the same kind of talent, I was hopeful that maybe a new system might do it. But we ended up finishing 6-4. For me, I have so many great memories of games that were big games, 300-plus rushing yards or like 5 touchdowns or more. And, they will always stick out to me. But ironically enough, I just remember a few games where, I had 60 rushing yards. And I remember a couple games where it was like we never got the ball rolling offensively and we couldn't be productive. And so it's both the ups and the downs, because I think about those as like almost missed opportunities. Now, I'm tremendously grateful for the life that I have and the path that I've been on. But I'm like, man, 2 more games, like, 150, 160 plus, and who knows what radar I would have been on, and who knows what 2 more wins would have brought our team that year, and we'd have finished 8-2 instead of 6-4, right? Like I think about those things, and it's just, I think the way my mind has always been kind of melded is like, yeah, I enjoy the victories and the good stuff, but like those things kind of haunt me, the ones that were like almost shy of my potential or our potential. So I loved my senior year. It was an amazing experience, but all in all, 6-4 and being shy of the playoffs, man, it was rough. The recruiting experience was very unique for me. And the reason is because of the fact that, like today, what you hear about and really common, and of course, you're still in the game. So, it's like kids are being kind of like prepared and sought after from the time they're 9th, 10th grade 100%. And beyond. Even before that, some of these young men, the camps they're going to, the exposure they get, what social media has done for, like, it's hard to miss talent now, right? That's just the bottom line. And still back in 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, which is when I graduated in 2004, it was still one of those things, like for me, I didn't touch that ball and really start to create a name for myself, even pretty locally and within our region, until my senior year. So I was what most people would categorize as a late bloomer versus like, some of my peers, like the Keegan Herrings, right? That, man, Keegan been balling since he was a 10th grader, multiple thousands of yards every year, ended up at ASU crushing it, even had a great career there. I'm trying to think of who else. Maybe Tremel McGill was another one who came out of the East Valley. Marcus Thompson, like there are guys that were like, we just knew who they were for like 3 or 4 years, right? Like just studs the whole time. So me being a 1-year guy, I was on people's radar. I got an opportunity to go on an official visit to UNLV, which was awesome, but they kind of still were catering to me as more of a walk-on experience. Like, hey man, we know you can play, but we're not willing to take the risk on you with this money, this guaranteed money. But after 1 semester, like, we're sure that you'll have it. That didn't make me feel good. It didn't make me feel like they really trusted who I was. And they weren't investing in me. So I was like, I think I could get a scholarship here for sure. Because at the time, the program was not good. And the ball carriers they had were not good, in my opinion. So I thought I could go there and make it there. I didn't know if Vegas was the best place for me, one. And then also I had these 2 other schools. I had Weber State University, which was here in Ogden, Utah. And then I had Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff. They were both offering me full ride scholarships. A chance to play. NAU was kind of a chance to play either side of the ball, but more so they were looking for me from a defensive standpoint. And then Weber State was like, hey man, we want you to be a ball carrier. We want you to come up here. And so I had some hard decisions to make, and ultimately took some trips. And that was obviously an amazing time. That's, anyone that gets to experience visiting a college university that's seeking after you as a talent, like those are unforgettable memories that I'll have. You know, ones that I'll get to share with, you know, my sons or my kids growing up one day, you know, with them. And I ended up choosing Weber State, man. And it was a blessing, dude. I don't think I would have made it to college any other way other than, you know, through the performance of my senior year athletically.
Okay. So I'll go back to you, like, because like being as a sophomore on that team, and like the guys on our team, like you say, your senior class, like dudes like a Jeremiah or Jared Schmiggy or like a Josh Canny Boy, or guys like Ryan Rodriguez, like, you know what I'm saying, like dudes like that who probably never thought they could play.
Ryan Rodriguez, Melvin Williams, man, keep them coming. That's right.
Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying, like dudes that people probably never thought could play in college. I remember as a sophomore, Ryan Rodriguez committed to Western Arizona, right? And I was like, in my brain, I was like, wait, what? Like Ryan, because like me and Ryan played the same position, and I looked up to Ryan, but I started over him because he got into a little bit of a thing with Coach Bowen, because he was like it was a tough transition for him, right? And in those two games, I thought like, oh, I felt myself, this sophomore kid who gets to play. And I got to this thing, and then I realized that Ryan was way better than I was. He was way more prepared physically. Like he was a dude, and I get that. But him playing and getting that college opportunity made me think I could do this. And then seeing you go through your whole situation and everything was great. I want to ask you now, if you were to play right now, would you be playing? What kind of scheme would you be? Would you be a person be looking for a scheme to play in, or what kind of high school would you be looking to go to? And then also, where would you want to go to college, kind of thing? What would you be looking for?
Man, those are really great questions, and the game has certainly transformed, right? So the game is played a little differently.
Yeah.
I still really love even the spread. You know, I'm a big fan of all the zone running schemes, brother. You know, in college, that was my favorite. That was my favorite system. As a freshman and sophomore in college, inside and outside zone and stretch, and maybe a couple counter plays here and there. But man, I love the old school. Just it's still a stretch running based play, but you just toss it to the back so that they got a little more time with the ball in their hands and a little more distance between the line of scrimmage. So those are things that I really loved as a ball carrier specifically. So fortunately enough, even the teams running the spread out of the gun still run a lot of that traditionally. You can even run trap from that gun position. So, you know, I love it all. What I'd be really looking for, honestly, and what I'm a fan of is I do love up tempo. I always wanted to be one of the hardest workers in the room. So I think having an offense that can get up to the ball and be better conditioned than defense, keep them on their heels, be able to hit them with the quick short game, and then be able to sprinkle in those draws and the stretch and the run and the reads if you got an athletic quarterback. Like that's really that's what excites me. I would love to be a part of that, because it's like, to me, that's what creates momentum. And I think most successful offenses, that's what they do. So from an offensive standpoint, that's what I'd like. From a high school perspective, in regards to like a program, you know, and a type of coach, it would be someone like Bowen. But what I'd look for, honestly, is a staff specifically that instills discipline more than anything, right? So, you know, what I see, and this is unfortunate, man, is I see a lot of guys that are coaches because they were players, and I think that's cool, but that doesn't mean that they're the correct leaders, right? And I think what you want people that do their best to kind of lead by example. You know, I like men that can speak to me and be direct with me, and, you know, bust me up with words when they need to bust me up, but do it in a respectable way. You know, what I don't like is, you know, and you see it on some of these coaching shows where, like, you know, cats are being verbally abused, basically. F-bomb this, F-bomb, you dumb mother F-er, you, right? It's like, okay, what are we really teaching these young men that are going to grow up to be fathers, that are going to grow up to be leaders, that are going to grow up to be husbands? You know, I mean, the truth is if that's how we're teaching them as teenagers, that's how they might react to their spouse, or that's not how they might react to their kids. And no one's perfect, so I'm not throwing shade in any direction, but it's like, I like to follow men that think about that a little bit at least. You know, they do their best to, like, hey, you know, I'm going to tell you something, and it's going to be direct, but at the same time, I'm going to do it respectably, out of the respect for you and who I hope you can be down the road.
Of course,
So I think that's what I'd look for. That's what I hope that one day I'll be betting for Elijah, you know, when he grows up. And if he's like, hey, Dad, I want to play football, I want to play whatever sport it is, you know, those are the kind of leaders that I hope to kind of put in front of him. It's like guys that'll tell him the hard truth, like, hey, man, you suck today, bro. Like, are you not focused? What's going on, right? But at the same time, they do it in an honest, upfront, in a respectable way.
But that'd be good. And then going forward with that, like if you were, let's say now you had the season you had as a senior. Let's say you had your regular high school career that you had implanted now, right? And Bowen was running, let's say, the Lamar Jackson wing T, basically. And that's the offense that we played, right? Yeah. So that's what we got through. And now you're looking at a college. And let's say you're going through the recruiting process. What would be schools you'd be looking at, like right now? And what would be the thing that you would be wanting from a university?
Oh, it's a really great question. So for me, again, what I would look for is a coach that would let me compete more than anything, right? So that means like going in as a freshman, what I want to hear is, hey man, we got this dude and he's a boss and he's going to start next year, or he planned to start next year. But look, if you come in here and you're a dog and you outwork him and you prepare in the right way, like we think that you can be a player. And like, that's what I wanted to hear and that's what I still would hope to hear, because I don't want to sit a year. I don't want to be a practice guy for a year. Do I believe that brings value? 100%. Oh, yes. And physically, especially, a guy needs to develop, or even mentally, he needs to learn, right? Maybe he came from a simple system and it's hard for him. Then I would understand that. But really, man, it's just like I want to step on and like have an opportunity to play based off of my work ethic and how I perform on a day in, day out basis. So if it's grading film every day at practice, like I'm trying to outgrade this guy. I'm trying to, outlift him in the weight room, trying to win that sprint.
Oh yeah.
And he gonna be annoyed by me, and that's okay. He just better know I'm like that's the kind of program that I want to be a part of, primarily because that's what fires me up as an individual. And that's even like from a business perspective, from a CrossFit perspective, right? Like those are the kind of athletes that I want to work with. Those are the kind of employees that I want to bring on. Because to be honest with you, and this is from a previous experience, but it's like I got to show up to that all-state game, when after my senior year concluded.
Trust me.
And I share the story with people, but I got to start that game and I shouldn't have. From all things like pedigree or resume.
Oh no,
like
I know.
There were guys going to ASU, guys going to Colorado State, and then I'm the guy going to Weber State, and I started that game, and it's because I was the one that competed all week at practice. So like they thought they was just going to show up and like, like we was in the Pro Bowl, bro. They thought we was in the Pro Bowl, like we was going to, and I'm out there like busting people's head and like, doing it. I'm winning the sprints even though we're not supposed to be going hard. It's like, okay, I'm here to show you. Like, man, you might have got the scholarship, but I'm coming for you one day.
Oh, no, I remember, bro, because I was in the stands that day, and dudes like Max Hall and Darren Moogie, right? I remember these two kids very vividly because everything was like, these are the next two big quarterbacks coming out. On the West Coast, dudes were and then Tramel McGill, because he went to Hamilton, and I had just moved from the East Valley, so I knew all about all Hamilton and Mountain Points and the Desert Vistas. So I knew what those kids were like, right? And I, like you say, Pro Bowl. He was like, yeah, this is like, I can see a kid from there knowing that and feeling himself, right? And then a kid from the West Valley, the not good side, coming in and just doing. So that's all, like, talk about that experience, and then playing that all-star game, what it taught you, and then going into college, what college was like, and that whole thing.
Yeah. So to be honest, man, it created a tremendous amount of momentum, bro. So I walked up in there, of course, and Zach Miller was there as well. So Zach Miller, to put some real smoke on this scenario is that like Zach Miller, I mean, we played against him in 7-on-7, right? Probably a couple times throughout the summer. We saw him at the ASU camp. I mean, this dude, he was just legit a man amongst boys, right? So
6'4".
Yeah. Oh man, I think he ended up being the number one tight end in that class, right?
Yeah.
And people compared him to Aaron Hernandez, who came out a year previous, right? Who ended up going to Florida to play for Urban Meyer, like all this stuff, or like the year after. Sorry, one of those two, but they were very close in age and comparable athletically. And he would ball out at ASU and go on to play in the NFL. He was a stud. And so I walk up in there and I'm like, immediately when I knew that I was going there, one, I was getting myself in shape for it. I wasn't just going to show up flat. I was already getting ready for Weber anyways.
Yeah.
And I knew that I wanted a chance to really test myself against guys like him, against guys like Tramel McGill, against the Max Halls. And like, I wanted to see, okay, like I read about these guys in the paper, never played against many of them.
Yeah.
So this was a chance for me to see this, how they show up, how they work, what they do. And so I think my hunger initially showing up, like I just had different intentions than them. And so what it taught me was that my mindset and my preparation was a huge advantage that I could use going forward, right? So I knew that in the past at my own high school amongst my own peers, but I didn't really know how valuable it was against these strangers till I got that chance. And so lining up with them every day for, 6 days or whatever it was that we got to prepare, maybe 7, a full week, I think. Hearing them talk, hearing them talk at practice, what they did like, what they didn't want to do, not volunteering for certain drills because I could tell they didn't either want to get embarrassed or they didn't want to hit someone or whatever it was. Like I learned these things and I was taking notes. I was like, cool, bet. Like they don't want to do that. I'll do that one. Okay, cool. Exactly. They don't like that drill. I'm gonna do that drill twice a day. Love it. Thank you. Exactly. I was kind of like building this tool for my tool belt, and all the while, what I did notice though, and I'll echo, probably this is why he had the greatness that he did. Zach was still a worker though. Like there were other tight ends that showed up that were similar to me, like guys that had less pub than him and were going to smaller schools, but he was still out working all those guys. Right. And so I was like, okay. So now I see some commonalities. Now I understand, right? Like he's gifted, but he's using his gift and also bringing that preparation. So to witness all that and to go through that process, to play in that game, it was like, it taught me specifically that nothing matters when we show up. Nothing matters. So it doesn't matter what junior high you went to, what high school, how many yards you got, what I read about you in the paper, what I saw about you even on ESPN. Like none of that matters until we line up against each other, and I'm going to just make you prove it. And if you prove it a few times, then you might earn my trust, but everybody's got to get it. Everybody has to earn my respect. And so that summer then in my mind, I was like, okay, cool. So this is how I got to view college. Like there's guys that I would read about, because of course, like any excited young athlete, when I committed to Weber State, I knew who the starting running back was. I knew who all the returners were going to be. I knew who the team captains were going to be, right? Like I was like, I want to be one of these guys, so I need to learn as much about them as I can, so I'm not just embarrassed day one.
Exactly, right.
And I'll say that's not common for all freshmen, right?
No,
like a lot of freshmen don't go into that. Yeah, but I wanted to play, man. I wanted to be a guy. For me, Weber State was, it wasn't my goal. My goal was a Pac-10, Pac-12, Big Ten school. And I didn't get that. So I was hungry to like really prove myself. So lo and behold, I go in and the first couple of days of 2-a-days. And like when we put on the pads, like I knew like I had to be a dog, man. Like I had to be the meanest guy. I had to be the hardest working guy. And so I just kind of brought that in. And that camp was a hard camp for me because physically. So what happened is, went there to play tailback. And so I was about 4th on the depth chart at tailback that year. So what happened was the way this plays out, maybe even 5th, dead serious at a Division I AA, I'm 5th on the depth chart. And it's because Nick Chernus was a big running back who has, I think he still holds some of Weber State's records. Most of them have been beaten now, but he still owns a couple of them. But big, white guy, tough dude, smart guy, really understood the zone scheme and was just tough, man, hard to bring down.
Yeah.
Like 230. He was the starter. Then a guy under him named Zach Hall, not our Westview Zach Hall, but another Zach Hall, was the second-tier guy, and he was like a sophomore at the time. And then there was a JUCO guy underneath him who came out of like Chandler. So there's 3 guys that are all juniors and above, or sophomores and above. And then it was myself and another freshman that were brought in, and he was higher than me on the depth chart. Naturally, he's from Culver City, school out of LA. Faster than me, like a 10.6, 10.7 guy in the 100. Yeah, so like he was, just dipping on, right? Like he hadn't, so I'm like super intimidated. So what I do is I'm troubleshooting in my mind. I'm like, okay, I got to outwork these guys. I do have some things that I can bring to the table. I know I can be tougher than all of them. I'm going to learn how to pass protect. I can run routes and catch the football. So I just started doing those things the best I could, no drop balls, catch everything, be on time. Be willing to stick my nose up in when it's time to pass protect. Some injuries happen through camp, and I get an opportunity, to line up and play fullback. Now, nobody, and I weigh about 190 at the time, nobody was volunteering to play fullback, man, because it was like you ain't getting hardly any touches. And it wasn't like a position that we did a ton anyways. Like most of the time we were moving tight ends and double tight ends or like, 3 wide receivers or a spread formation. So it wasn't super common anyways, but I get up in there, man. I'm like, hey, put me in at fullback. Let's go. So they put me in and I start sticking my nose into all kinds of places, man. I'm trying to, drive out defensive ends. I'm trying to, pick off middle linebackers. I get into a couple fights at practice. Oh yeah. And like all of a sudden though, I start to get this identity, I'm the guy with like his head split right here. So every practice, my face is bleeding. Right. Yep. and I'm the 190-pound fullback blocking for the 230-pound tailback, right? Like, so our roles are reversed, and people start to give me a bit more respect. They're like, man, hey, but he's getting it though, you know. And then all of a sudden, I'm an athletic fullback. They can use me in schemes where they create mismatches. So they motion me out from the backfield, and I get against a linebacker, and I could beat a linebacker even as a freshman. So certain things the coaches really start to use me for as their advantage. And I got myself a starting spot as a true freshman. And then, of course, special teams, I got to even return kicks some as a freshman. I played on basically all special teams in some kind of capacity. So, you know, it was long story short, man, from that all-star game through my freshman year at Weber State, it taught me that competing every day is a real thing, that you can always earn an opportunity if you're willing to find it. And one of my running backs coaches, man, a guy that ended up playing in the league a couple years, he was just a volunteer for us, but he told me the league was the same way, man. He told me, he was like, listen, he was like, you could show up if you could stay healthy through your time here, man. He's like, you could show up, you're going to play against guys from SC, you're going to play against guys from Wisconsin. And he's like, and they ain't no different than you. He's like, the only difference is they might not even be going as hard as you at practice because they're spoiled. He's like, they got things that are nicer. And he's like, so when you get an opportunity, you do those guys the way that you're doing these guys, and you're going to have an opportunity to play. And so I just have always taken that to heart, man. Make everybody prove it.
That's such a great mindset, because I tell kids this, like right now coaching in coaching high school and doing recruiting process, and like I'll send you videos of kids, because like for me, I see football like the same way you do. Like it's a tough physical, it's an attitude thing, and I think we learned that early on. Like you learn quickly, some people don't like to be hit over and over, and like for me, that never bothered me. Right? What bothered me is when you out-athlete me and I can't do anything about it. Like, you know what I mean? So then I would hit you, and then I realized, oh, like I can hit you, but and you don't like that. Oh, okay, now I know how to beat you now, because that's all it is, right? And once I learned that kind of thing, it helped fuel me. And kids today that I coach, like a lot of them, they are hungry to learn, hungry to be good, and hungry for the end product, but a lot of them don't love the process. And and that's what I try to teach. And I think I learned that through watching you guys in the weight room, like you and like Jeremiah and Robert Hernandez and Gilbert Rivera, you know? Like,
absolutely, bro.
Like
absolutely.
Watching you guys in the weight room, it taught me how to do that. So when you're saying that, I love that you're saying that, because I want to tell kids that all the time, that you can do a lot of these things in your life that you don't even think you can do. All you have to do is just put your head down and learn to love the hard process and things, and you'll be okay, right? And it's a massive a tribute to Coach Bowen, and like you're saying, this work ethic thing.
100%, man. And you're hitting the nail on the head. And the truth is, you know, to be quite frank, is like, this is a message that we've got to tell everybody outside of the scope of sports.
Yes.
Right. Like, so it's like, you know, now I'm having conversations with people. I mean, one day I hope to be back in the football game. I hope to be influencing and inspiring young men to just, you know, do all those great things again. But right now it's like, I'm getting people either in the sport of CrossFit or fitness, or they're trying to start their own business and do their thing as an entrepreneur. And I'm just like, look, if you don't love the process and trying to find the most minuscule ways to set you apart from someone else, you got no chance. Cause that's all it is. The journey to get there is all it is. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, I won the CrossFit Games 3 times on a team. And you know what? I enjoyed it for like 36 hours, right? Like 36, I trained all year, sacrificed so many things. And in 36 hours, we partied and we enjoyed ourselves. And then all of a sudden it was like, all right, cool. I guess we got to start getting ready for the next year. Yeah. Right. And so it's like that journey is really all you have. And if you don't love it, it won't last for you. You know, it won't pan out. You think you want it, but you don't. Yeah. So yeah, man, it's truth.
That's awesome, man. And then, so talk to me about that. So talk to me about having aspirations of being this football player and this NFL player your entire life. Like that's what you want to do. You go to college, you have a up and down career, if you will, injuries here and there, you know what I mean? And then like you have a pro day, all this kind of stuff and then you go and play in the arena league. Like, I remember watching like little videos in the day of you playing in an arena league, and you're not a running back, you're wide receiver, right? And then you go from that to, hey man, like I see you do this CrossFit video. CrossFit, this is not even a real thing at this time. Like where I grew up, where we grew up, like no one does this, right? And it's like you at this regional, and you're wearing some like Chuck Taylors or something and so explain to me that whole process, and then what that sport has gotten to you, and like where you're at in that sport and things like that. So
Yeah, man. You know, in summation, I kind of sum it up like this: is my whole life had been aiming at the NFL, right? Like truly, you know, I made sacrifices that other people weren't willing to make. I was trying to, you know, there were moments, man, and you could probably see this. Like I was a square, right? Like I was the guy that was like, I might show up at the party, but I ain't having no drinks. I'm chilling. I'm good.
no,
You
I
know,
get you.
yeah. And I was even trying to get other people. I was like, hey, man, you know we got practice tomorrow at 7. Like, chill out, bro. You know, because I need you to ball out so I can ball out, right? So I've always been that guy.
Yeah.
And so, you know, with that being said, as I had my heights or my sights set so high, I tell people it was like I've got an opportunity to shoot for the stars, and I still landed on the moon, right? And so I was presenting myself physically or preparing myself physically for something I thought that was going to play out for me, professional football career. Lo and behold, I got a chance to play some arena and get football out of my system for 2 seasons. I really enjoyed it. I cut my weight down, learned a couple new skills of getting off jams and how to play and be a physical wide receiver in an arena league. And I loved it. I enjoyed it. I even got to play in an all-star game after my first season, which was an amazing thing. Got to travel to Virginia and play against some of the East Coast cats. And like, it was an amazing thing. I was doing things that I never really thought that I would get a chance to do. And then of course that kind of sizzled out. I recognized that I didn't want to chase that dream anymore. And I found CrossFit. And the fortunate thing about CrossFit is that I'd always been into human performance. And this is an important thing for listeners to hear if they're still kind of going through this journey, if they're still looking to go to college or in college themselves. Like, your degree is important. You know, study something that you're passionate about. I studied exercise science, kinesiology. And so I was always in the training atmosphere. I was training young guys to get ready for their pro day, training guys for the combine, training guys for the next season of performance, whatever it was. So I stumbled upon CrossFit because it was just a trending way to train and a credential that I could get. Luckily, because I was poor at the time, you know, game checks aren't big in the arena league.
Oh, yeah.
The place I worked for got me my level 1. So I learned about CrossFit from the base up, fell in love with what it could be. And I was like, oh, there's a competition at this? Oh, cool. I'm about to go try to win this thing. So literally, that's all it was. I wasn't like, hey, I want to go change people's lives. Hey, I wanted to win. And I still had those competitive juices flowing. So I was like, let me just empty my energy into this and find out what it takes to be great. And so I did that the best that I could. And for, you know, the next 2011 through basically 2017, that was my focus, was to get as fit as I could in regards to the standards that CrossFit has set. So that means be as strong as I can, but also as endured as I can. You know, I had to learn how to swim and be a great swimmer, not just in a pool, but in the ocean. I had to extend my ability to run long distances at fast paces. And I had to work on a lot of things, but I loved it, man. And it went back to, and I think this traces all the way back to that opportunity that I had to, you know, write on that piece of paper when Coach Bowen handed out that I'll play any position. You know, right? Like it's that humble approach to like, hey man, I'll do whatever you need me to do to get this team this W. Because then that transferred into that All-Star game, that transferred into my starting opportunity as a freshman. And it's the same thing even with arena. Like, cool, I can't play running back here because I don't want to be a guard in the backfield. I wanted the ball, so I had to transfer again to wide receiver. Yeah. So it was about always being adaptable and transitioning to each situation I was in. CrossFit let me shine in that way. I had success on the team 3 times where we won it, which was an amazing time. Even I went individual in 2015 and finished 21st in the world, which is still a great accomplishment. I wasn't pleased with it, but it was awesome, man. Yeah, it's a great thing to have on my resume and a wonderful experience, learning experience. And then in 2017, the last time that I competed, we got a chance to win the games on a team and be the only team that ever beat CrossFit Mayhem, where Rich Froning is still the reigning champ and undefeated, other than the time our team stepped in and got to win.
See, and that's huge, man. Like, and that right there is a massive achievement. Like, that's so crazy, and something I didn't even really know. I know you competed and been competing for a long time. I actually went and saw you one time in like Orange County, California. That time I remember. Yeah, that was a crazy time, and then that's when I got introduced to your now wife, but girlfriend at the time. So talk to me about that. Talk to me about that part of your life and going through college and all that kind of stuff. And then when you met your now partner.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I wrapped up college. I had been in a pretty serious relationship the vast majority of my time in college. And so, you know, and once I finished school and I was kind of in that transition of like, am I going to get an opportunity to play in the NFL? Is it going to be CFL, arena football? You know, I was kind of enjoying the lifestyle of a single man, you know, and all the things that entails, ripping and running, you know, staying out late. At the time, I had taken up more of an extracurricular interest in women, of course, but also drinking.
Yeah.
So I was on the party scene, and it was one of those things where, you know, I think I'd looked at it as, man, I had abstained from these things for so long.
Why not try a little bit?
Being a focused athlete, yeah, I was like, I'm gonna just be me, and I'm gonna learn what I like, what I don't like, and explore. So I did that, man. And fortunately enough, you know, I was able to keep my relationship close enough with God through those times, even though I was rebelling against the things I knew that I shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah.
To kind of keep my mind and heart in the right space, or about as right as I could, and keep the influence of some really good people in my life still really strong. So lo and behold, I met my wife at this time, and literally we just meet out at the club. You know, I was up to no good. She was probably up to no good. And we met each other on a dance floor, and we danced a few times that night, I think. It was one of those moves where, like, you try to slide in. You know, there might be some creep dude trying to dance up on these girls, and then you slide in to try to be like, hey, don't worry, I'm going to save y'all. It's cool. You know, it's one of those moves. It's one of those moves. And it worked out, man. It worked out. So at the time, though, like I mentioned, I was kind of ripping and running, doing my thing. And she was actually, I think she might have even been in a relationship at the time. So she was ignoring me, right? I kind of hit her up on Facebook after that night that we met. And some time passed before we actually started to engage in conversation. And then months later, we finally go on our first date. And on our first date, something certainly clicked. Like, definitely, there was nothing that I had ever experienced. I had never really actually even formally dated a girl, to be honest with you, man. Like, every relationship I've been through in high school or in college, it was like we were friends first. We never really formally dated. We were just like, oh, and then we just became boyfriend, girlfriend, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's just kind of how things work, it seems like, right now.
When you're young, and that's how it just like, you're like, oh, you're hella dope. We kick it all the time. Like, why are we not? Like, why is this not a thing?
That's all it was. I get you. That's all it was. And so, you know, for me to actually date her, take her out, meet her places, do things like that, it was all new to me, and I enjoyed it. So, you know, long story short, man, I really started to recognize that I cared for her tremendously. I admired her. I wanted her to be someone that was, you know, I was exclusive with. And so that allowed me to focus my attention on the things that I should have been focused on from the beginning. So she was a great catalyst for me in kind of cleaning up who I was and how I am, and allowed me to focus more on God, because I knew I wanted to be something special for her. I wanted to lead her the way that she should be led and care for her. And so, you know, I kind of got back on my P's and Q's, spiritually aligned with some guys, and got some good advice. And she was coming around church a lot and kind of exploring her relationship with God. So what we ended up doing first, and I know this is a long answer, is we actually didn't focus on dating each other for a minute, right? Like, we both kind of let ourselves get in the right space. You know what I mean? Like, I let myself get focused on my career, my relationship with God. She kind of wanted to see where her relationship with God was going to go, and if it was going to go anywhere. Yeah. And then the same thing with her, you know, focusing on what she was doing as a career woman herself. And then when things were right, we really decided to make things formal. We dated for formally. So we'd known each other for a couple of years at this point, but then dated formally for, I think, maybe a year, close to it, before I proposed. And then it was like a 5 or 6 month gap. And then we did the thing and got married, man. That's and it's awesome, been 8 years. Now we got 2 littles, a boy and a girl, Elijah and Ari. And yeah, man, I couldn't ask for a better situation or relationship.
That's awesome, man. So talk to me about getting married, wedding day. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about that, and then touch on the birth of both your children, like, and what it meant to you to become a dad, or did you ever have a dream of that? Because I tell people, for me, when I was a kid, I only had 2 dreams ever as a kid, and that was be a professional athlete and be a dad. I didn't care about anything else, really. Those are the only 2 dreams I ever had. Like, and so, like, when I started playing sports and got into a point where I was like, yeah, this is where I feel like I can get to. Maybe I can go a little bit further than this. My thought process was instantly dad. So talk to me about that whole thing of marriage and then becoming a dad, and how that became for you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, you know, marriage was amazing. I'll be honest with you. What we did was You know, the leader at the time, who was a great friend of mine, his name was Kip Harms. He and his wife Beth, they did some great premarital counseling with us, and the reason I talked to that is because it helped us get prepared for so many things and challenges that I think new married couples have to battle through. We all have to battle through, but they helped us prepare for those things, you know. And it's small things like, hey, financial discussion. Hey, you know, Adrian, what do you love most about your future wife, but what also do you struggle most with? And asking her the same things, and like, hey, you know, what do you think? What are you most fearful of in marriage? What do you know, like, what are you guys gonna do about X, Y, and Z? Do you want to have children? When do you want that to be? Like, so many things that, like,
yeah,
people don't ask each other very much, right?
yeah,
So it made us start to think about this, you know, 3-4 months before we were ever married, and we got to navigate these things almost in a make-believe way because they weren't real yet, right? But they were very quickly becoming real. So fast forward to us getting married, man, and I mean, it was amazing. You know, our wedding day, I can remember it very vividly. I remember even her walking down the aisle and how beautiful she was, and just what the experience was like, you know, the emotions that I felt, and then the party, of course, and the turn up. I mean, I still feel like, man, so many people that got a chance to be at our wedding are like, hey, man, y'all need to do that again. So, I mean, you know, what I'm hoping for is that I can get a bunch of people and send out a big invitation, and then for year 10, maybe do it again. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man.
Yeah, man. So we'll see, but it was an amazing experience. And what we did is we were really patient with kids. You know, we had, at the time we got married, I think I was 26, she was 27. We knew just from advice that we'd gotten that, like, hey, man, be married and just be together for a minute, right? Like, as long as you can wait, if that's your interest, wait. And the reason is because, you know, once we have children, we knew that there's no, you know, you don't get that time back, right? Like, kids are kids, and they're going to be with you now for the next 18 years. And then, of course, you're a different person 18 years from now than you will be now. So they're like, hey, you know, spend time together, be obsessed with each other, you know, do your thing, whatever you guys are doing career-wise or whatever, that's fine. But they're like, you know, spend this time together, date each other as a married couple, and enjoy that freedom. And so we did. And then we were fortunate enough that, you know, kind of pretty soon after we decided we were interested in having kids, that she got pregnant with Elijah. And goodness, so this is March 27th, April 2017. He was born April 10th. Yeah, man. So that was when, and we got married 2012. So we almost waited 5 years.
That's awesome.
Almost 5 full years before we had our first child. And for number one to be a boy, it was like, man, I was so excited and so pumped up.
I can't even imagine.
You know, I had a lot of fears.
Of
had
course.
A lot of, yeah, man. I'm you know, more fearful than excited, to be honest with you. It's like, because I'm cool with the leadership role of a lot of things, but I didn't know how to create a human, right? And how to create a man that's honest and upright and a leader and all these things that I dream of him being. So I was afraid. I still am today. But from all the advice I've gotten, all the books I've read, you know, it's just kind of like, hey, don't nobody know what they're doing, man. Everybody just does their best. You know, so that helped me.
Yeah. No, it's the same thing.
That helped me.
Like I was gonna say, like when you have a kid and like you say, like being that leadership role and like what that is, like you don't know what that is. Like you don't know how to, like I often used to tell my dad before I had a kid, like, how do you raise a kid without influencing them? Meaning, like, I don't want to be the reason they do things, but I want to make sure they don't fall off a ledge. I want to make sure that they're not, like, you know what I'm saying? I want to make sure that they find the right interest in these real things. So yeah, I definitely understand.
Absolutely, man. So, you know, fast forward to preparing for labor itself, man, I was like, you know, my wife had books she was reading. I had books I was reading. I wanted to help her the best that I could. Yeah. You know, she had a vision for how she wanted the pregnancy and the delivery to go. And so I wanted to support her, all those things. We ended up doing like hypnobirthing classes to prepare. And it was an amazing thing. Really, really fortunate for both of our children to be born very smoothly. Pregnancies were good. And we had some ups and downs even in between the two. Ari, I mean, we had almost 2 years between our two children. And, you know, my wife and I both, but my wife lost a baby in between the two, which, of course, we would go on to learn that isn't an uncommon thing.
My
a lot of
sister's
people
done the
deal
same
with.
thing.
Yeah. And so, going through that was a challenge. Just wanted to make sure that I was there and support her and love her as much as I could. And also, mourn and deal with the process for me the best way that I could as well. Because you find out that you're expecting the baby and just things change, right? Something inside of
you
just
like
changes. And then when that gets taken away or something doesn't go the way that you hope for, it's disheartening and it's heartbreaking. So, again, fortunate enough, we're tremendously blessed that just months later, or maybe the next month even, we got pregnant with Ari. And now we got a baby girl.
That's
and talk
awesome.
about scared, that fear level multiplied times 10 now that I got a girl. I feel like I need to up the ante and own a few more guns and make sure I'm in the gym a little bit more. So
no, I get you, man. No, my daughter Khalil's 2 years old, right? And she lives in Canada, and like I'm not there all the time, but I see her every day, and like she knows who dad is and all that kind of stuff. But man, like I know her mom is a great human being, and if she ends up dating someone else going further, I know she would choose someone who's great for her, and I understand that. But still, little parts of me are like, you know what I mean? You're like, I want to be there for her, protective always, all those kind of things. So I totally understand that. But even going forward into that now, so now that you've done all those things in your life, now talk about what it is you're doing now. I know you own a gym, right? Or you co-own a gym. You got this other brand of stuff. So tell people where you're at now, what it is that everything that you're doing daily with everything.
Totally. So I came basically when I was competing. We kind of left off in 2017 when I was competing at CrossFit. That whole time I was basically coaching and managing a gym called Wasatch CrossFit. Fast forward, I ended up meeting my now business partner in 2016. His name is Skylar Farnes. He had the aspiration to create a supplement line. He loved CrossFit tremendously and was a fan of mine, had followed along with me through my journey through the years, and he was local here to Utah. He had kind of been raised in an entrepreneur family. So he kind of had it running through his blood. He had that spark of energy, the hustle, one of the hardest workers that I've ever met, focused, committed, all these things, all in, right? Mm-hmm. So, we were kind of two peas in a pod, although, I'm probably almost 10 years, not quite 10 years, but several years older than this guy. Yeah. But I recognized his maturity and an old soul in there just due to his work ethic, right? And so lo and behold, we decided that we were going to work together and start this supplement brand called FNX. So FNX is a supplement company that we launched in 2017, a pretty unique combination of his business acumen and my ability to have an understanding for what athletes need, what athletes like, all the connections that I've been able to bridge throughout, the sports world, and also the connections of several gym owners and people throughout the country and in different ways to kind of help us market and build our brand and what we are. We've had some great success, man. So we're in year 4 with that. That's kind of my primary focus for sure. Mm-hmm. So I transitioned out of coaching to do that. Now, as we started FNX, we also started a gym. So I do co-own the gym that we started. It's called Live in Victory CrossFit. And of course, we wanted that mainly to have a true and genuine stake in the fitness industry. As we fly athletes in to spend a week or weekends with us, we want a place for them to train. Yeah. Of course, we wanted to have a community of our own for people to train and employees to work out at as well. Yeah. So that's kind of what created that. I don't do too much there on the day-to-day with the gym at all. At this point, for a while, I was programming and doing some things, coaching some classes, and now I've transitioned into letting our management team and the other owners run the gym. Yeah. And I focus more on the FNX side of everyday life. So, we're basically growing our reach, designing new products. And at this time of year, actually, we're launching a new program called Rise 45 that will launch officially January 1. And it's basically a lifestyle and habit forming program. It involves sleep and nutrition and mindset practices and hydration and supplementation and training that instills new practices for people that allows them to live a healthy, happy lifestyle. So that's our goal there. It's called Rise 45. And that's kind of what makes up most of my day-to-day, man. I still do some online coaching for people that want to pursue CrossFit at a high level. So, I do that through brute strength primarily, and I still have a few one-on-one clients as well. So I wear many hats, man, many hats.
Hey, there's nothing wrong. Hey, listen, I'm in the same, I got A chili pop-up I just started a month ago, 2 months ago. It's been doing good. I coach high school football, right? Manager at a liquor store. I do this podcast and a bunch of them. Like, so, you know, like I'm always into it. Like I'm all about wearing the different hats.
I love it.
Yeah. So I also wanted to talk to you more about your love of football, because you're one of the more brighter, intelligent football minds that I know of, and I can talk to about things, having played at that level and stuff. And then also the strength and conditioning part of it, because I also went into strength and conditioning and kinesiology when I got to school, so somewhat understanding of it. My question to you is, if you had to choose this, we'll call this either or. I'll do a couple of them. We'll make it a speed round. How about we do that? All right. Choose one. If you had to be position coach at a college or university, right? Position coach or strength and conditioning coach. What would you choose, and what would be your dream setup in either one of them?
You know what? I would have to pick strength conditioning coach, especially if I could only oversee football. Ironically enough, this brings up another quick story, is that I was offered the head strength conditioning job at Weber State University when we started FNX in 2017. Mm-hmm. And I had to make a very hard decision to go the coaching route, which was what I was more familiar with, or that entrepreneur route. And I'm very glad I made the decision that I did. But it was a very, very, very hard one to make, man. The offer was basically for me to oversee football and men's basketball only. It's like the dream position. Yeah. Yeah. Aside from the travel that I would have had to do with men's basketball winter and spring, dude, I was like, man, how can I turn this down? I don't know what's going on right now. But I did make that hard choice. But in the particular situation you're giving me, I got to go strength coach. And the reason is because I get an opportunity to work with each and every one of those football players. So amongst the, O-line, D-line, backers, secondary, everyone, skill guys on offense, everybody. And it's a little bit more of that influence with the whole mentality of the team. I feel like I get the touch points of a greater vast. So I'd love to dial into a specific position group one day maybe, but I'd have to pick strength coach of the two.
Okay, that's perfect. And then off of that one, we'll go other hypothetical question. If you're head coach now, Division I school, let's say Utah State offers you the job over and where's Utah? That's in Logan.
It's in Logan, yes.
So they offer you the job there. Gary's gone, right? They offer you the job. And now you're going to go pick a staff. Who are the first two guys you're looking to be a coordinator for you that you know, if you were going to bring it from guys that you know? I know, random question, but.
Yeah, man, that is a very, very random question. And it's a very interesting one. Because, honestly, I don't know where I would begin when it became to like offensive, defensive coordinators.
Yeah.
But what I would first do, and I would say one of the guys that I would go after initially would be my brother Daniel Hooper, and that's not even in regards to a position specific. But what I would first and focus more so on would be character building, right? Because what I want is individuals that can identify character and help me bring in high character and train high character throughout my program. So I think we can find plenty of talent. I think that we can find plenty of guys that can fill roles, and then bring on coaches that can accentuate those men and their talents. Yeah. But what I would dive into first are men that could help me build the character that I hope and aspire to develop, so that, one, we have a foundation to build from, right? Oh, yeah. So that it's not like I need to chase guys around on Sunday night and Monday night and Tuesday night when they might have off, but they're like, hey man, we're focused. This is our program. This is what we want to do. We want to make it to the next level. We know this is what it takes. And we want to serve something that's a greater purpose than just us as football players. So that's honestly what I would do. And I don't know if that would be literally me going to get a chaplain first thing, maybe, or what it might be, but I would seek after character first. And he's the first guy that I would consider to hop on a call with and be like, hey man, what do you think? Yeah. Can you help me do this?
Oh yeah, and that would be like, and especially now, like you look at what Herm Edwards is doing at ASU, they have that whole pro model, right? And they have like a director of player personnel who's like basically the GM or the director of player development, if you will. And that's like you're saying, like, damn, maybe not doesn't have a position coach or like coordinator, like you're saying. Their job is just to be like, listen, I can even train the guys you're looking for on our staff, and like these are the characteristics we're looking for. in a football player, but let alone just in general a human being. These are the type of characters, these are the type of dudes that we want in going forward in our program and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, sir.
So that's awesome, man. And then going forward, some more rapid questions. We'll try to speed this up a little bit. If you had to choose living on the beach, right? Living on like 5 mile walk from the beach, 5-minute walk from the beach, right? Every day, but then you have a house in the mountains, right? That you go to in the summertime or whatever. Or would you rather live up in the mountains remotely and then go to the beach every once in a while for the summertime or wintertime? What would you, if you had to choose?
I'm a mountain guy all day, man. I want to be up in the mountains. I want to be. I like 4 seasons. I really do. I like a bit of seclusion, but I love to hit the beach up for those short stints, maybe even a month straight. You know, like I enjoy the beach in the summer. Don't get
Exactly.
it twisted.
Yeah.
But from a long-term perspective, I like more of the mountain scene, I think.
Okay, perfect. If you were given a property of, let's say, 25 plus acres, right, to build on, but your family also had to live there, what kind of company would you try to build, or what would you want to do on that property?
Great question. 25 acres. That's a lot of land.
25 plus. It can be even more if you want to even dream even bigger.
Sure. You know, one thing that I'd like to do is I'm a big food guy, man. You know, I don't know what it would be like profitability wise, but I'd love to be able to create opportunities for people. So if we could live there, right, and that's my land, so I could build a home I'm already taken care of there. Yeah. I would like to create an opportunity for people that don't have space to be able to have food and grow food. So that means maybe a business that is more of almost a nonprofit, setting up so that, you know, we can bus kids from downtown areas up here to learn how to harvest, learn how to grow, learn what it means to touch and feel real food, learn what it does to their bodies and their minds, you know, because that's just a passion of mine, especially being in the supplement industry. It's like, man, I'm trying to bring people health as much as possible and create opportunities for people that might not readily have those opportunities. And you know, this is just like we have a program called the Live in Victory Everyday program. So what that means is that every time that someone buys a product with our company at FNX, we donate a gallon of water to a village in Ghana. So basically, it's a partnership that allows us to build wells each year. So depending on how many products we sell, we get to build a particular amount of wells. Yeah. So, you know, that giving aspect has opened my eyes to a lot of things. And it's the simple things like either fresh water or even just fresh food to eat that doesn't come from a bag or a can, you know. I'd love to be involved with something like that. So I think I would have to get a lot of information and learn a lot, maybe hire some really appropriate people to know the science of it all. But that's what I'd like to do. That's
funny because like I was telling someone this the other day, my aspiration dream is coach college football, position coach at some level or whatever, and then in the summertime retire, if you will. In the summertime have a farm, if you will, that has a wedding venue, and you pick restaurant produce, because of my chili thing that I do now. And what I want to do is have a restaurant where people can come and you pick their own vegetables, but they also have the restaurant, and then late night hours they have a little brewery / comedy club. And that's all in this one place, right? And obviously my family lives there. We have people that work the farm, all this kind of like just massive area thing. And then you have people on like a brew bike tour, that kind of thing. That's a massive dream, and I want to get to that point. But it's awesome that you would say something like that, because I'm very much similar to this situation. I just want to help other people be able to experience this stuff, because I didn't grow up knowing the right foods to eat kind of thing, and being afforded to living even when I was introduced to it, resisting it, because like no, I can still do this without, just to prove a point. Like, oh, I don't need to do this so I can do this. Being that, you know. So yeah, that's awesome.
I get it, man. I love it, and I appreciate you sharing that, because hey, you know, you come up on some land, bro, let me know. We'll make it work. We'll find some investors. We'll start this little business. We'll have a little farm. We'll do something.
Yeah, trust me. Yeah, I'll definitely talk to you a little bit outside of this, so we'll talk a little bit more about it. But yeah,
there we go.
That's awesome. I'm gonna leave you with one last question for you, and this is just bigger than everything. If you could say a thank you to all the people who helped you get to the point in your journey, what would that thank you be? And then also, last thing is, or before that, thank you, is talk about what it means to have a support system. Because I feel like a lot of people on this journey of life and going through these things, they don't realize what their actual support system is, and they don't know what it looks like. And I feel like from an outside looking in, you have a great one. And I wanted to hear your emphasis on that. And then the thank you, like I said, to the people.
Yeah. So, I mean, my support system has been everything for me. My parents always had fostered big dreams and an opportunity to do whatever I wanted to do. They basically supported my desires. You know, I'm a kid that you know, my parents never had the most money. You know, there were things that I had to turn down and didn't get to do, of course, because of that. But I didn't have a job in high school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Meaning that, like, they were able to be like, hey, yeah, here goes $10 for some gas and a movie or whatever you want to do on a Friday or Saturday night. Here's $20,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whatever. This got to last you X, or here's money for They took care of me so that I didn't have to have anything that was a distraction between me and my goals, right? Yeah. They told me that, hey, if you stay in sports, you don't need to work a job. And
that
so,
was my
you know,
dad
small
the same
things,
agreement. So
yeah, small things like that for me were the big separator, right? And so to me, my whole entire family, my siblings, each and every one of them, my aunts, my uncles, anyone, my friends that weren't leading me by example, but leading me by the wrong example, even had wonderful impacts on me, right? Oh, yeah. So, you know, what I would say is that one, support systems are everything. Mine looked very, very, very diverse due to the number of people that I've engaged with and interacted with, from teachers that straight up called me out for no reason. I felt like I was just getting picked on, man. There was one teacher in particular, I can remember in the 9th grade, man, it would be like, he'd set my paper down after a test, bro. He'd just set it in front of me and slide it up to me and be like, I'm disappointed, Adrian. And it's like an 82. And I'd be like, what? Like, why are you disappointed, bro? Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand this. But it really, I mean, so many lessons here, like even that as an example. Yeah. And I didn't really think about it much until I started thinking about it now. But like, he made me set higher expectations for myself without ever saying that at all. Just like, hey, I'm disappointed, Adrian. Like, you're better than this. And I'm like, dang, am I really though? Like, I thought that was gonna be cool. Like, I'm a B. Like, we're good.
What's like, hey, man, yeah.
You know, yeah. You know, but he helped me understand that it's like it's what you expect of yourself that gets the most out of that. So there's countless examples of those that I could share with you. And if I had to say a thank you to everyone, what it would look like, or those that influenced me, it would just be a reminder to them that I know for a fact, like, one, thank you for what you've done for me. Thank you for the examples that you set, whether it was good or bad, whether it was that you felt like you were letting me down or that you felt like you were leading me in a tremendous way, because I learned from it. I was always watching and always listening, period. That's it. Thank you. And a reminder to them and anyone that has influence on someone, whether it is a peer, whether you're just a teammate, whether you're just whatever, it's to understand that, like, you are affecting someone, like, right now. You know what I mean? Like, we're on this podcast together. We're just chopping it up. I feel like we're just catching up, man. Yeah. You know what I mean? On some years that we ain't engaged. But someone's going to listen to this and be impacted tremendously. You know what I mean? Like, you asking me this question impacted my heart tremendously. So it's like you having this podcast, people listening to this podcast, people that are holding the door for someone at the grocery store today, are either teaching a lesson or supporting someone in some way, or someone watched them hold that door from a distance, not the person they held it for, but they're like, man, that was a good dude. You know what? I'm gonna hold the door for somebody today, or I'm gonna hold the door for somebody tomorrow. And that's to me what a support system looks like. It's everybody's in it together, whether we realize it or even like it or not, you know? So that's what I would say.
Oh man, I appreciate that, man. And like, for me as a person, I would say, role model to me as a kid, growing into more of a peer and someone I still find as a role model. I thank you for so many of the lessons you may have taught me when you didn't think you were teaching me. And I'm so appreciative. Like, there's so many little things I can tell people, like just little advice, like the little advice you gave me before I had a child about change more diapers than my ex-wife, right? Because naturally my wife's going to do more. That advice I give to every dad I know, or new person who's going to be a dad: change more diapers than your wife. Because with anything, it's like little things like that. So I thank you for those little things, man. I thank you for talking to me for so long and having this conversation about everything. It's been great. I would love to chop it up with you more. We got to do this more often, man. Like, I really, really appreciate it. Anything else you got for us? Anything else you want to say to anyone? Anything else you want to promote or anything like that as well?
Oh yeah, people could follow along a little bit of a daily journey with me. Rise and Pod with Adrian Conway is the name of my podcast. I do a short format podcast, so it's daily, 5 days a week, you know, somewhere between 4 to 10 minutes. And it's like a daily charge, you know, something I learned through life, a conversation like this, but something simple, a lesson or a question that I propose to the audience so that they can go through their day and maybe have it on their mind to rise up and do something awesome.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it so much, guys. Thank you, everyone, for out there listening. You guys know where to find the podcast. You can get us on Spotify. You can get it so much, guys. Thank you, everyone, for out there listening. You guys know where to find the podcast. You can get us on Spotify. You can also find us on SoundCloud. Again, it's Innerspace with Brendon Crudup. That's the name of the podcast. And this is season 2, right? The Friends from School series, and the first episode on season 2 was with my main man, Adrian Conway, friend, teammate, high school, everything. So thank you guys so much. Comment, like, subscribe, hit us up. We appreciate everything. Have a good one, guys.